Hello, Rob from Fountain Pen Journey. Now, I'm going to be doing a bit of face-to-face talking with you to begin with, because I just want to go through essentially where my fountain pen journey is going, because I always thought it was going to go in one direction, and that was ultimately going to be concentrating on cheap Chinese pens and German fountain pens. 3 years on, where am I? Well, to be honest, things have changed a little bit. Because of the 2021 UK leaving of the European Union, i.e. Brexit, things have changed a little bit, and I've noticed that the price of a lot of Chinese fountain pens and pens from overseas in general has increased because there are increased taxes. And the old sources of cheap Chinese fountain pens, namely mainly eBay, Etsy, AliExpress, what I'm seeing now is a factoring in of not excessive, but additional VAT, taxes, things like that. And what used to be really, really cheap and expensive Chinese fountain pens are now a little bit more expensive. I'm not saying they're through the roof, but things have changed. Even the likes of Amazon. Before December 2020, I could buy stuff from Amazon, for example, dog food, pet food, things like that, and it might have cost, say, £45 for that one big bag on Amazon. And it always came from somewhere like Italy, which always seemed a bit strange because you would have thought they've got warehousing in the UK, things like that, but £45. Now that same bag of dog food is costing more like 50 odd pounds, £55 nearly. So there is a huge percentage increase in getting things into the UK now, which is a bit annoying. And as I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, the customs charges now seem to be a little bit more likely depending on the courier. Whereas before you could buy a cheap Chinese fountain pen for $1, $2, something like that, get it to the UK including post and packing, fine, that's still okay, there's no issues with the lower cost items. But things like the fountain pens that I bought, which were say £15 is the cut-off point for the Chinese customs, for the UK customs from China to kick in. So anything over the £15 mark from China now can attract handling fees from the Royal Mail, which is pricey for what you're actually getting, and the customs charges, which are negligible in all fairness, but it's the Royal Mail handling fee which is actually stupidly expensive. We're talking about £8, £8.50, something like that, which is a lot of money to add onto the top of a cheap Chinese fountain pen just to get hold of the thing. So I've been a little bit more judicious with my pen purchases, a little bit more cautious as well. I mean, willy-nilly fountain pen purchases from China, you've really got to start thinking about whether it's worth getting hit with charges, even though, touch wood, I haven't had any since that incident with the Kaigaloo 316 fountain pens from a seller in China. Everything else has been fine, so I'm really quite happy that all my other purchases have gone under the radar. But where does that leave my fountain pen journey? Well, in honesty, I'm going to have to say that some of the fountain pens that I now like are still affordable, but they are not the dirt cheap Chinese fountain pens, because once you've bought a Jinhao 159, you've bought a few of the other Jinhaos and maybe some of the other brands like Moonman, things like that, it starts to get a little bit samey. They're not churning out the different designs like they used to, and I'm guessing this is because of the pandemic. It is having a knock-on effect on manufacturing and maybe even the supply chains. So things have changed. In some ways it's for the better, because it means that rather than buying lots and lots of tiny purchases, low-cost purchases from China, I'm now sitting there on a stack of pen budget thinking, well, I haven't spent my pen budget for this month, let's see what turns up. And it's things like the new TWSBI Eco in smoke, which has just been released. Slightly more expensive than the typical TWSBI Eco, not hugely, but that is now more of a worthwhile purchase for me, and I will support the UK pen retailers, of which there aren't really that many, to be honest, certainly not at the lower end. I mean, there's only really Cult pens and Pure pens that spring to mind off the top of my head, and they are providing access to affordable pens, good quality UK customer service too. You know, it ships usually within a couple of days, the pen's with you, which is fantastic. Apart from that, saving up for a fountain pen is something that I do occasionally. I did it with the Conklin Durograph, which to be honest is rather expensive. The Abalone Conklin Durograph, which is a pricey fountain pen. The dogs are kicking off at a dog outside, excuse that. And it's changing a lot of the way that the UK is operating. I mean, I have a selection of pens which I shall show you in a minute, which I've bought over the last few months. So this is a pen mail video after all. So there's a whole range of fountain pens down here which I've bought from eBay. So eBay, other marketplaces which are local in your country, are a really good option for purchasing fountain pens, and you can get some real bargains. I mean, my most recent, if you like, potential expensive purchase was the Faber-Castell Ondoro. The video went live fairly recently, and that was a great fountain pen for the price, because I paid probably half price for it second hand. So it's worth keeping an eye on things like eBay, seeing what auctions you can get. I mean, I've missed out on some absolute bargains, but I've also got a few really good bargains as well. And you know, it's the luck of the draw. You set yourself a budget, a limit, maximum bid if you like, or you just see something for buy it now and you think, you know what, I'm going to buy that. And also local fountain pen groups on Facebook. They are, from my experience, a really good source of cheap, or if you like, cheaper, lower cost fountain pens, which would normally be out of my standard price bracket for a purchase. So I've been very lucky with those, and touch wood again, I've been very happy with the sellers on there, the private sellers. You're taking a chance because you never know what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with, that type of thing. But in all honesty, do your research, you know, see how those people are on the various community groups. If they're a member of other pages and they post and they seem legit, then you stand a good chance of getting yourself something that you actually really want. So I'm going to switch the camera over and move over to the fountain pens. Right, I'm going to talk about these bargains, if you like, from eBay and other sources. So the first thing, I mean, this is a whole bunch that arrived. Sorry, I'm banging the camera here. I'm going to open it. This arrived ages and ages ago, and never got around to opening it. This was, if you like, a typical eBay bargain, completely over the top but dirt cheap. Let's get these out. Yeah, excessive, I know. 10 of them, I think. 4, 5, yep, 10. 10 identical. I'm knocking the camera all over the place. Let me just move my microphone a bit. Oh, blimey. So 10 identical Parker Duo Fold sort of pens, and this is actually really quite a surprise because these are really quite slim, in fact shockingly slim, and they're also matte, like a really quite almost a rough terracotta matte finish. Are they pull caps? There we go, with a plastic ridged section. Quite a slim pen. That is really not what I expected at all. Oh, click to post, that's quite good. Decent size, quite back heavy, because this is quite a light pen, and this cap actually feels quite heavy. We got anything going on in here? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, there is a cap liner. That's a good thing. Wow. Okay, that's not at all like I was expecting from the listing. I mean, this whole bunch of pens. Obviously, it was a seller on eBay wanted to flog the whole lot, and honestly, I would have paid the price of one of these pens for one of them, but no, I got the whole 10 pens, 10 identical pens. I believe they all have medium nibs. Looks like a number 5 nib, duotone, silver and gold. Looks fine. Looks like a fine nib to me. Do we have converters? No convert. Oh, hang on. Oh no, we've got an ink cartridge. Got a standard international ink cartridge in there. So that's, yeah, it's quite nice. It's a metal pen, and that is actually quite an unusual design, because I do have already some unbranded Parker Duofold designs, basically in this colour, which are metal but a lot girthier, and they have a completely gloss finish, and yeah, much thicker pen. So I mean, that was a bargain, and something that's was quite unusual and unexpected. I was expecting the same Parker Duofold designs as my original Chinese fountain pen. There's quite a bit of clearance. Oops, quite a bit of clearance on that clip there. That's not the most useful of clips, but it will slide onto a pocket somewhere very easily. So that was the first thing. Bargain, absolute bargain. I don't think the seller put anything else in there. No. Okay, so let's get into the other bits. Right, here we go. No, not that one. Where is it? Get this other box out. Whole box of stuff. I'm going to talk about this. No, I want the other one. Where? It's never the one you want. There we go. Right. Pen BBS. Now, if you've been subscribed to my channel for any length of time and you've watched my regular videos, you will undoubtedly have noticed that I have commented towards the end of late 2020, early 2021 about Pen BBS not really lighting my fire, fountain pen wise. They're not producing the designs that they used to do. They're not doing production runs of their previously very popular and much loved designs like the 308, 308. Excellent fountain pen. I loved it. If it came out in more colours, I'd almost certainly buy them. They're usually quite cheap. Pen BBS's prices have shot through the roof, really. I think they're asking way too much money for what they are actually producing, but the Pen BBS fan club really enjoy their pens, so when they do release any fountain pens, they usually sell out within hours. One example of this is this material, this acrylic. Now, I completely missed out on buying any of the pens that were released in this acrylic. However, this one did go up on their Pen BBS Etsy store in December 2020, and I thought, you know what, it's a model that I haven't actually tried, and I was put off by some of the reviews that I've seen, and it was it was one of these things. It was like a kind of combination of two things that I actually wanted to try. I wanted to try the model, and I wanted to try the have a look at the acrylic. I'm trying to see the model number on here because I can't remember it. 469. So 469, double-ended fountain pen. One end has a fine Pen BBS nib, the other end has a medium Pen BBS nib. It's an eyedropper, as you can see, with this weird hourglass acrylic thing going on inside. That might help. There we go. So we've got this unscrew cap, and this acrylic is called Peacock, and I missed out on all the Peacock pens. So when this came up as a sort of oddment on its own, I thought, you know what, I want to try this model and I want to try this acrylic, so that is why I bought it. So I will review this pen in due course, because a lot of the reviews of this this model were saying that the nibs were pretty awful. Now, I don't really know what they mean by that. Well, I know what they mean, but I don't know why Pen BBS have made such a hash of the nibs on this particular fountain pen, apparently, because they're the same Pen BBS nibs that they supply on everything. And whether it's the fact that the various people who have reviewed this pen have said, well, you know, normally they seem to like the Pen BBS nibs, which seems unusual for the same nibs to be fitted onto a different model and not be very good. So I am interested in seeing how these nibs perform, and it's nice to see that the section actually matches the cap material. It would have been very disappointing if it was just the caps which were in this Peacock acrylic. And it's, yeah, eyedropperable. You unscrew these, and of course they're tight. There should be an O-ring on there somewhere. I mean, these are going to be good eyedroppers. They're not going to hold the most impressive amount of ink there. We've got an O-ring on there, so I mean it's going to hold a good milliliter or two of ink. Not a massive amount, but good enough. And I think it's kind of lending itself to be one of those pens that you either have black ink in one section and blue ink in the other, or red ink in one and green ink in the other. There's a lot of threads on there. I mean, this is a very, very secure eyedropperable fountain pen. This is a lot of turning to get that back there. Right, okay, so what do I think about the Peacock acrylic? Now, maybe this was the last of the Peacock acrylic and they didn't have enough to turn a whole pen. All they could do was make sections and caps, because I am actually really quite underwhelmed with this. There is really not a lot going on. It's black and teal. There is a little bit of chatoyancy in these striations, but not very much. It's pretty unremarkable material. It's nice enough, but I would be somewhat disappointed if I was expecting really nice material, which is something which I almost feel that I'm getting a little bit spoiled when I buy pens from Ranga fountain pens or Ranga pens, because their acrylics have actually been really, really good. And I think that this almost lets Pen BBS down. So it might be my last Pen BBS purchase from them for a while, unless they come up with something absolutely stunning which doesn't sell out in about 2 hours and I actually see the listing before everybody else does. So yeah, there we have it. I'm happy enough. It's going to be an interesting one to try, and I will review that and give you my opinion about how that Pen BBS model 469 actually writes. So what other bargains have we got? Well, non-original box, but the seller said, well, I've lost the original box, but you can have another one. So quite happy with that. Thank you very much. Once again, packaging isn't something that I generally bother with, but I always keep it. I mean, you've already guessed it's a Pelican Fountain Pen. And this shows you how nice packaging can actually look. That's normally tied up. So what did I get? Well, Pelican Pelican M205 in black. I don't have a straight black Pelican M205. Unscrew, nice grey clear ink window there, piston filling fountain pen, steel nib, broad in this case, so I'm really looking forward to trying a broad Pelican nib. I've always tended to go with medium nibs for Pelicans because I find that they're really good everyday writers. They're a nice size, they're comfortable, they're reliable, capping and uncapping is nice and simple, straightforward, good looking pens, and they're good writers, nice and wet. So medium nibs have always served me well, so a broad nib is going to be a nice experience to try. So that is that Pelican, which should be great fun to use. Oh, you know what, I'll have to pop this all back together. It's never going to go well if I try and do this another way. So slide that under there, slide that back on top, and I shall show you the next things. Right, this is an example of what you can find occasionally as an absolute bargain. It's a Franklin Christoph. I think it was called the Model LE. It's a prototype Franklin Christoph fountain pen in one of their acrylics, which I must admit I quite like. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I do actually quite like it. It looks quite sort of vintagey with this black body and chatoyant multicoloured chips in there, yellow, pinks, blues. Nice looking pocket fountain pen, and it is obviously a prototype because it never went into a full production run. As you can see, it's about the size of a Kaweco Sport. It does post reasonably securely, not very deeply. We'll do a full review of this in due course. Nice little pen, very nice little pen, and I was always looking at Franklin Christoph fountain pens because I've heard so much about how well they write, how nicely the nibs are. So this is going to be a very, very interesting experience. It is apparently a cartridge, standard international cartridge only. I don't think it'll take a converter. I'm guessing you can probably eyedropper. Yeah, I reckon you can eyedropper this. Yeah, not seeing any obvious gaps anywhere, so yeah, probably be able to eyedropper that as well. So prototype Franklin Christoph, good opportunity for me to be able to try a Franklin Christoph fountain pen and Franklin Christoph nib at an absolute bargain price. And in this package, the seller had actually put a fine nib that they actually preferred writing with and the original Franklin Christoph nib, so I can swap these out, give them a go, see what I think. So that's going to be an interesting little experiment. So another great bargain. And here we go. This is something that I haven't shared with you yet. One of my favourite fountain pens, favourite looking fountain pens, are these Schaefer Tyrannis. I have a few of them, but I've never really used them a great deal, and I've never done a review of them. And this is the silver version, which I hadn't got. I've got other colours, and I really do quite like these. Schaefer white dot up there, everything's out of focus. There we go, Schaefer white dot, and they are a nice looking fountain pen, quite an unusual design, huge long clip, very long cap. just pops off, and you can see this whole nib section is really quite unusual. Nothing else quite like it. Very interesting design, huge long section, lots to hold on to, good length, posts well, nice comfortable length when posted, good weight as well, really well balanced pen, because of course this cap is so monstrously long. It posts fairly deeply. Very nice pens. And the other interesting thing about this was that the seller was private individual again, selling this because it came with a fine nib, and these Schaefer Tyrannis fountain pens almost always come with medium nibs, so to find one with a fine nib is really quite unusual. And he said that the nib needs work. I have tested it very briefly, and yep, I agree, it definitely does need work. It needs some tweaking, but nothing major. So that is quite a nice fountain pen. I'm very pleased with that. So I shall slide that back into its case, its packaging rather. There we go. So there we have it.